Howdy folks, and welcome back to World of Warships with Rear Admiral Jingles, and today, for your viewing pleasure, we have this little cracker of a replay from Alcock in the Japanese Tier 10 cruiser, the Zhao. The Zhao used to have a reputation as something of a fire starter in World of Warships, but that reputation seems to have gone away with the introduction of the British battleships with their ridiculously high base fire chance on their high explosive shells, ships like the Conqueror in particular. That doesn't mean that the Zhao is any worse at setting fires than it always used to be. It just seems to have been eclipsed by its British cousins. The Zhao is still very, very good at setting fires. In fact, I think when Flamu went to review the Conqueror, he actually called it the Mega Zhao, purely and simply because of the base fire chance of its high explosive shells, something that the Zhao has always excelled at, and it hasn't gotten any worse at doing that with the passage of time. It's still very, very good at setting fires on other ships. It doesn't have very high damage per minute, however, because of the reload, the slow reload, on its 203mm guns. The default reload on these guns is 13.7 seconds, but it does have 12 of them, and when firing high explosive, it has a base 19% chance that each of those shells is going to set a fire. And each of those shells has 920 meters per second muzzle velocity. That's some of the fastest travelling shells in the game. Which means that the Zhao does not only excel at setting you on fire, it excels at setting you on fire from very, very far away. The ship itself is also pretty fast and manoeuvrable, which means the typical role that the Zhao enjoys in a battle is second line, very powerful second line support. And when you finally turn your sights on one of these things and try to start killing it, it's usually 13 or 14 kilometers away, agile and fast enough to dodge most of your fire, while still worrying you to death with the 6 rear 203mm guns, spamming you with high explosive, setting you on fire, simply disappearing from view if it doesn't want to stay in the fight because it also has an excellent stealth rating, and if you insist on pursuing him, get ready to meet some of his little torpedoes as well. That's not the style of gameplay that you're going to be seeing a lot of in this particular battle, however. For now, however, let's take a look at this Des Moines. This guy's going to be making all kinds of mistakes, and rather than just laugh at him, let's analyse them and see what he's doing wrong so we can learn from it. He's spotted and flanked by a Khabarovsk, so straight away the team knows he's there. Now initially he does what American cruisers tend to do. He's making that island his waifu, and he's shooting at the Khabar that's spotting him. But Alcock is now in position to start shooting at him, with all 12 of his 203mm guns, and he is of course firing high explosive. You can't angle against high explosive. Now let's take a look at the rest of his team. If you have a look at the map, all of the enemy ships that have been so far spotted are either a minimum of 15 kilometers away from this Des Moines, and or heading in the opposite direction. So is he alone here? Well, not entirely. There is a destroyer with them. The Z-52 is now also shooting at the Khabarovsk. But a Khabarovsk is a difficult target to deal with because it's incredibly fast and it's reasonably well armoured for a destroyer as well. And yet there's still only one person targeting Alcock, despite the fact that he's in the middle of open water and he has no concealment. So if there are any enemy battleships on the far side of that island, if they could be shooting at him, they would be. Now the Des Moines has just gone undetected, because he's no longer targeting Alcock and he's in fact switching his fire to the Khabarovsk. He goes detected again the second he opens fire. This is the point where the Des Moines has sealed his fate. If he wanted to survive this encounter, because he doesn't have any backup and support with him other than that one Z-52, if there was anybody else with them, they would all be shooting at Alcock now. But if he wanted to survive this encounter, the second he went undetected, he should have stopped firing, turned around and gone the hell out of there. But he didn't. And so now this guy is very, very dead.
We've destroyed an enemy cruiser.
The Z-52 is still out there. But we can tell, I mean you can see the Z-52 smokescreen behind the island over there, which the Khabarovsk is launching some torpedoes into, but you can tell, due to the fact that Alcock went unspotted the second the Des Moines died, that there are no further enemy ships with a direct line of sight within 18.8 kilometers. The Des Moines was effectively acting alone. The closest enemy ship appears to be that North Carolina over there. And he's 19 kilometers away. And he's heading in the other direction. So, I think it's safe to say that the Des Moines bit off a lot more than he could chew. Now then. That tells us something as well. Alcock's launched his spotter plane. And he's shooting at the North Carolina. And he's set him on fire. The North Carolina can't actually see him. Doesn't have a direct line of fire. There's an island in the way. And yet Alcock is spotted. Which tells us that the Z-52 is not hiding inside his smokescreen. So he's out there somewhere, in direct line of sight, and he's spotting Alcock as he fires at this North Carolina. You see, the North Carolina's doing what the Des Moines should have done. Realising that this flank is hopelessly underprotected, he has turned around, and he's getting the hell out of there. Something that the Des Moines could have done if he just stopped shooting when he realised how badly outnumbered he was. And there's the Z-52. And yeah, the Z-52 is dead. In fact, yeah, he's just been sunk. Alcock's still spotted. Well, now he has a direct line of sight, even though he can't actually see the North Carolina, because the North Carolina isn't shooting and making himself a target for all of these enemy ships. But for 20 seconds after he last fired, Alcock is still visible to every enemy ship in direct line of sight out to the maximum range of his guns. Now pay attention to what's been going on in chat, and also the fact that the Montana on the team, at the top of the team list, has just this second turned pink, as Alcock starts taking some shots at this enemy Yamato. Turns out that Alcock's Montana is very upset at the Khabarovsk for not spotting targets for him. I mean, it's been seconds since the Z-52 was killed. The Khabarovsk was kind of occupied at the time. And in his frustration at not having any targets to shoot at, the Montana decided to start shooting at the Khabarovsk instead. Turns out that the Montana is in fact a massive raging arsehole. A fact which he's going to continue to prove in chat for much of the rest of this game. So if anybody's interested in a little bit of street theatre, although I do warn you, the language does get kind of fruity, just pay attention to what's going on in chat. Meanwhile, Alcock is busy playing the game, continuing to rain fire down on this Yamato. Note also that there's a cyclone closing in. Now this is very, very bad news for a Zhao. It's not so bad at the moment, maximum visibility is still 23 kilometers, but ships like the Zhao, ships that are most effective when they're whittling your health down from long range, do not enjoy playing in cyclones, particularly when the maximum visibility drops down to 8 kilometers. And that's going to happen sooner rather than later. And there's the enemy North Carolina. Now what the North Carolina is doing here is kind of surprising, but it's also suicidal. Rather than continuing to kite away, and he didn't have that much further to go before he got into cover behind the islands up there, he's now turning around to face his pursuers. And this is going to get him killed very, very quickly, because the only immediate and practical support that he has are the enemy battleships further to the north, out of direct line of sight on the far side of that island. In fact, if those three were any further to the north, they'd be on the ocean map. So at the point where this North Carolina turned around and Alcock started shooting at him, he could have expected to receive some fire support from the Amagi, the Montana and the Frederick the Great to his rear. But now they can't see anybody that the North Carolina is spotting, because visibility is closed down to less than 10 kilometers. So the North Carolina couldn't have picked a worse possible moment to turn around and start shooting at the ships that were pursuing him. And that has sealed his fate. He doesn't have too much to worry about from the Montana on Alcock's team, of course, who is still far too busy shooting at his teammates to bother with enemy ships, because he's a massive raging arsehole. Now there was an enemy Shimakaze around here somewhere. Aha, there he is. Obviously spotted by the gearing, and he's reversing, so these shots are completely going to miss. But the Shimakaze's doing something that's quite unusual for Japanese destroyer captains. He's using his guns, and he's actually doing a fair amount of damage to the gearing in the process. Meanwhile, Alcock's torpedoes strike home on the North Carolina. His second volley flies through the air towards the Shimakaze, and there's the double strike. as he finishes off both the Shimakaze and the North Carolina at the same time. And this is where things start to get a little strange. Here comes the Neptune. Okay, he's taken out the gearing, but he's caught Alcock at his most vulnerable, point blank range and broadside on. And his guns were pointing this way because he just shot the gearing, but instead he's shooting at the bow tanking Bismarck in front of him. So Alcock switches to the armour piercing, because why the hell not when you've got a target like that sitting in front of you, and he sinks the Neptune as well. Doesn't really have time to celebrate because there was, now hidden behind the smokescreen, the Henri IV, another ship like the Zhao that is much better suited to kiting away and riddling you with high explosive fire from long range. And then Alcock gets detected. It can't be radar because none of the enemy ships remaining have radar. And of course the Henri's hydroacoustic search doesn't reach that far, so that can only mean one thing. It's the Frederick the Great, at a range of less than 5 kilometers. Now we know he's got his hydro running, so he's going to see these torpedoes the second they were launched. But knowing that the torpedoes are on the way, and being able to do something about it, when they do 67 knots and they've been launched from a range of less than 5 kilometers, are two entirely different things. And there's the Kraken unleashed. Although I am being a bit generous towards the Frederick the Great by saying there was nothing he could do about it. There was plenty he could do about it. He knew that Alcock was there. Why did he sail out from behind the torpedo protection of the island? The enemy Attigo does at least have the excuse that the Frederick the Great didn't, because not all of those torpedoes hit the Frederick the Great, some of them are still running. And they've sunk the Attigo as well.
Enemy cruiser foundered.
Meanwhile, the Henri IV has bitten off a little bit more than he can chew as well. In his haste to pursue and finish off Alcock's Zhao, he's now charged out from behind the safety, relative safety, of the islands, and he's just realised he's got, well, more than just a Zhao in front of him. Now, he's not going to turn to give broadside to those battleships, and possibly he's thinking that if he can just survive a little longer and get closer, he can torpedo them. But by doing that, he's presenting a big, fat, juicy broadside target to the Zhao's 203mm armour piercing shells. And that, boys and girls, as we all know by now, is a paddling.
Enemy cruiser.
Our victory is in sight.
In case you haven't been keeping track, that's 7 kills. Yeah. And 202,000 damage. And if you have a look at the map, there are 2 surviving enemy ships left. The Montana, which we can't actually see, but he is there. He's been engaged by the Musashi up to the front, with some assistance from the North Carolina. He's more than 8 kilometers away. The Cyclone's in effect, so he's spotted, but we can't see him. There is one surprise remaining in this game, however, and it's not something that I expected to see, particularly when, you know, it's just the last 2 ships left alive on the enemy team are the battleships, and they're both cruising around the map border. Looking at the last reported position of the Yamagi, you can see him just up there around about 20 kilometers to the northwest of the current position of the Montana. Way too far away for these 2 ships to be able to support each other, even if they wanted to. Again, not particularly surprising at this stage of a game of World Warships. Well, you may notice that his position has just been updated. He is in fact over here with the Montana. They are actually attempting to work together, although he's a bit of a day late and $1 short because the Montana has just been sunk. But it is very surprising that the Yamagi A thought to make it all the way down here to try to work together with his last surviving teammate, and B, that he managed to make it over there without being spotted, even in the middle of a cyclone, because in order to get to this position from where he was last spotted, he had to make it past this Des Moines without being spotted, without being radared. So while on the one hand you want to give him credit for actually managing to make it down here undetected, you have to bear in mind that he's a battleship with almost all of his health remaining at the end of the battle. And the reason he has almost all of his health remaining at the end of the battle is because, as usual, he's a battleship who spent most of the game cruising around the map border, not being terribly effective, and is only really able to bring his guns to bear and start doing some damage right at the end of the game. And the only thing that he's realistically able to achieve at this point is to become Alcock's 8th kill. 2 devastating strikes, a double strike, a Confederate, a high caliber, and a Kraken Unleashed award with 232,000 damage done, and 8 kills for Alcock in the Zhao. And yeah, some of the relative positions of the various different players on that team's leaderboard at the end of the match, not entirely surprising. But well done to Walcock. He got a little bit lucky, but sometimes a little bit of luck is all it takes. Hope you enjoyed today's game, folks, and as always, take care, and I'll catch you next time.